Are you looking for the perfect bracelet for a loved one? Would your man be interested in a personalized keyring from his children? Are you looking for the best priced jewelry, whether it be a necklace, ring, earrings, bangle, or even more? Look no further than Crafted Arts. Crafted Arts is a local business based in Barry within the Vale of Glamorgan, and they have a range of all the perfect items you need. If it's for the perfect gift for an anniversary, or maybe it's for someone's birthday, maybe something for Christmas, or you wanted to give someone that perfect gift that will last a long time, Crafted Arts is the business for you. If you want to know more or see what they have in stock, then you can visit them locally at 29 High Street, Barry, Vale of Glamorgan, CF627EB. Or you can go onto their website at www.craftedarts.co.uk. You could even email them at info@craftedarts.co.uk, or maybe just give them a call at 07789 94248. Trust me, it's worth it for the perfect gift. The best thing about Creative Space is that we don't just want to encourage people in being creative in TV, film, or even theatre. We also want you to be creative in a variety of other things as well. So do you want to have experience in making jewelry? Do you want to pick up a hobby but do not know what to take or where to start? Then look no further than the Vale Jewelry Workshops. Vale Jewelry Workshops provides the best experience in teaching you how to make the best sterling silver jewelry. They will help you make a range of silverware, including rings, bracelets, and many more pieces. You will learn the basic silversmith skills such as soldering, texturing, shaping, and lots more. Not only do the workshops provide the experience for adults, it also provides the best experience and fun for children as well. So if you want to learn on how to make sterling silver jewelry, and if you're very interested, go onto their website at www.valejewelryworkshops.co.uk or get in touch with them via email at info@valejewelryworkshops.co.uk or even phone them at 07789 794248. Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to Creative Space Podcast, and of course I am your host, Truly Reece Deans, and our today's guest on the show is a Broadway actress who has won a Tony Award for her performance in Hedwig and the Angry Inch, and she's also been in Kinky Boots, the original Broadway show Kinky Boots, with Billy Porter playing Lola. She is none other than Lena Hall. I've been after her for quite some time, and every time I've emailed or got in contact with her representatives, they've always said no, she's busy, etc., which is fine. And then when I finally got the big thumbs up, I had to prepare in 2 days because I emailed them on the Tuesday, they got back to me on the Wednesday, and then the Thursday and Friday then were my research days, and then on the Saturday we then had to start the podcast. But without further ado, let's get on to it. It's me and Lena Hall on Creative Space Podcast. One of the reasons why I wanted you to come on the podcast is because I noticed in your credits that you originally played Nicola in Kinky Boots.
Yeah.
And at this moment in time, my this drama society I'm with, we're doing Kinky Boots in July. And I was like, oh, I need to go find someone who's doing Kinky Boots or who did Kinky Boots. And then I saw one of the names popped up was yours, and I've been after you for quite some time actually. Even before we were to do Kinky Boots, I wanted you to come on my podcast for a pretty long time. I had a few friends in a lot of drama courses who were asking me, oh, you got to get Lena Hall on the show, and I was like, who's Lena Hall? And they were like, right, do your homework. But yeah, I wanted to talk about obviously talk about Kinky Boots, talk about all the musicals that you've done and everything, and we'll get on to Kinky Boots in a moment. But for you, why musicals? Was it because that you're looking into the backstory in somewhat? Your father was a choreographer. He did a lot of dance. You know, was it something that you wanted to do straight away? You were born into a family that loved the arts.
Yeah, I mean, I had no choice as to whether or not I was going to go the arts. In fact, I didn't want to be an artist. When I was 12 years old, I quit ballet because I had been a ballerina from the day I could walk, basically. And it was my path was to be a prima ballerina. That was the path that was set forth for me by my family. And at 12, I was like, I don't want to do this. And I had already, I had done a lot as a ballerina already. Um, and I kind of was like, I want to be an accountant because I like numbers, or I want to be like a lawyer or like a psychologist or something normal. That's like kind of what I really wanted to do. And then in the meantime, my sister, she was in like doing musical theater with this company that was like for teenagers. And I always wanted to do everything my sister did because she's 5 years older than me. And so because she was singing, I wanted to sing, and we would sing together when I was little. But then when I was 12, I was like, I'm not doing ballet anymore. My parents were like, well, you are. They still made me do it. Um, but it wasn't my focus anymore. And so then I started doing musical theater with my sister at this teen theater company. And I really liked it. I had a lot of fun. I had, a voice, natural talent. It came from my parents. Like I come from a really, really long line of artists on my father's side, is the Filipino side from the Philippines. And so I couldn't really avoid um, the arts, and I always had kind of a natural singing voice. And so I started doing musical theater with my sister, and I enjoyed it. But again, it was like I wasn't thinking of it as a career choice. I was thinking of it as I love doing this. I'll just keep doing it. I'll do it locally, whatever. I had never been to Broadway. I didn't even think that that was a dream that was a possibility. And and then like these random, these touring shows would come through and they would have open calls, and I would go. I would go with my sister and I would go with my friends, and it was always really fun, and like, you know, the adrenaline rush of it all, right? Not like I'm a teenager. And then I went to one friend. He called me. He was like, "You got to get down here. They're seeing the girls at one. It's for CAF National Tour. I just did the boys' call. You got to get down here." And so I went there. I was the last person to arrive and to sign up. And I did the Cats open call when I was 17. I just graduated high school. And then right when I turned 18, they called me and I went on tour with Cats. Like it was totally out of the blue. I didn't know what I was going to do with my life. I hadn't taken the SATs, which is what you need to take in order to get to college. I wasn't even thinking like, I was like, maybe I'll go to like a community college. I don't know. I didn't really know what I wanted to do, but I didn't think that this was like the choice. And then I went on tour, and then I did the tour. I went to New York finally for the first time, and I loved it. And I was like, oh, I need to be in New York because I love New York so much.
Mm.
I loved the energy and the vibe of it. It was just something that really drew me in. And then a year and 3 months later, after on tour, a year and 3 months later, they called me and they transferred me to the Broadway company. So it wasn't a choice. It was like it happened to me.
Yeah.
It was this going with the flow moment that
Mm.
just like brought me right to New York, right on Broadway, and that was that. And so for me, my idea of musical theater and Broadway and all of that was always like, oh, this is so easy, which is not the case.
Yeah.
Which is not, and I learned it wasn't the case much later, but like, as just like someone right out of high school, like just got my national tour and immediately moved to Broadway. Like that is not something that is typical and that happens. And I think it was just like from having trained in dance for so long and having sung with my sister and been in this theater program for 4 years, like, and doing theater and I played classical piano, I played cello, like just all of that input from my family and just growing up with the arts. That
Mm.
led me right there. And so it was just like a case of like timing,
Great timing.
preparation, and a little bit of luck. Yeah.
At the is it true that at the age of 7 you've performed in front of Pope John Paul II? It was like, yeah, because
That was
I
an
read.
accident. That was an accident.
How did that happen then?
Yeah. Um, yeah, that was like the biggest show I've ever done in my entire life. And like I've always been chasing that dragon, right? I peaked at 7. My sister was doing it, and my dad was also choreographing some kind of welcome ballet for the Pope. Because my dad, he had a company and it was a very popular company. He was a very popular choreographer in San Francisco. And and so, sorry, if you see giant dogs walking behind me, those are my
No, it was
dogs.
gorgeous, a gorgeous dog right there. I was like, oh my God.
I have two Great Danes. They're gonna
Oh,
come in and
lovely.
out. Yeah. But yeah. So my dad was choreographing this opening ballet and to welcome Pope John Paul II to Candlestick Stadium, and then my sister was singing with the girls' chorus, and they were doing this big number. And I was at all of the rehearsals just because I was 7 years old, and of course I was with my parents and my sister all the time. And they did their final rehearsal, and there were 3 kids who had this like trio that happened. They were all my age, and they were singing, and someone heard me kind of singing along with the song in the background, um, while I watched. And then one of the kids dropped out last minute, and they were like, "Oh, well, she knows it." And it was just like instant. And I did that, and I still remember to this. I remember the morning. It was like 3 in the morning. We drove to Candlestick Stadium. We staged it on the stage, and like there were 70,000 people there or something. Like Candlestick Stadium was filled with people, even on the floor, right? On the floor all the way through the stadiums. And and I remember like going up on the song, and we all forgot the song at the same time just because it was just like overwhelming, this moment in time.
Mm.
And yeah, and there was this kerfuffle too, because it was supposed to take the Pope longer to get to the stadium because they were expecting all these people lined up everywhere just to that he would slowly say hello and da 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 da. But this is San Francisco, not everyone is like totally into the Pope. So
Yeah.
it was less people than they thought on the way there. And so he just like showed up suddenly. And then, my dad's ballet had to get cut a little bit in half because he was like there already. And they were like, oh my God. So, I just remember certain things. This is like when I'm 7. I think this is probably one of my, it's not my youngest memory, but it is like, like the biggest moment of my life. When I was 7. It's like, you top that.
Jumping ahead then, when you go into to Broadway, um, you start out in a few credits in the ensemble, but to be part of many productions, what was it like for you? Especially if you had to give anyone advice, or you probably have given many people advice who have said, "Oh, if I or when I ever get to Broadway, what is the first advice that you got to give to someone when they do have their first ever show on Broadway?"
Um, that it's probably going to disappoint you.
I've asked that question so many times from a lot of people, and they always say the same thing: "You're going to be disappointed."
Well, it's this thing where we hold these ideals of like, oh, it's a dream, and when I get on Broadway, it's just gonna fix everything. It's like that thing where you're like, when I get on Broadway, or maybe the West End too. I don't know how you guys feel about the West End.
Oh,
But
we
it's
love
like
it.
okay, yeah, when I get on Broadway, like that is it. It's the be all end all. My life is gonna change. It's gonna fix everything. I'm gonna be financially sound. Like we have these imaginary ideas in our head about these huge goals, right? Like that. I felt the same way about TV film. And really, honestly, it will disappoint you when you get there because you just don't know you have no idea what's going to happen if you're in a hit show or not. Like the show could close in an instant. It could never even open. Like there are some cases where shows are like announced and they're about to go up and then they close. Like
Mm,
it's it's really a volatile thing. So is TV film. It's very, very volatile, and it's not one thing that's going to be the thing. It's a great goal to accomplish, but I feel like you can't put all your eggs into that basket. It's not going to creatively fulfill you at all. Commercial theater does not creatively fulfill you unless you are the one driving the show, unless you are the lead of the show. You have to remember that you are part of a puzzle, like you're part of a collective thing that you really
mm,
don't have much control over. And all you I always say it like this. So when you're in the ensemble, or well, really when you're in a commercial Broadway show, um, you are not the painter. You are the color that the painter puts onto the canvas to make the piece of art. And the painter is, you have the director, you have the producers, you have all these different people who are using you as their inspiration to create this piece of art, but it's not you as the painter. I always tell people, go for Broadway. It's going to be great as long as you don't have the expectation of it fulfilling everything for you,
mm,
and do something else that you can control creatively that is for you only, because then you'll have that satisfaction there, and then you won't place everything on this Broadway show. It becomes more of an enjoyable job if you don't place creative fulfillment in that job, especially ensemble. Um, but even as a lead, you have more control, but it is limited, and you do have to listen to your directors and the people outside who have the outside eye, who are creating the art. You know what I mean? It's you have a little
mm,
less control. So those are the things. It's like it's not gonna be what you think, and you've got to find something else to fulfill you creatively.
mm. I was watching Fosse and Verdon on obviously they got it on Disney Plus. And there was an episode, I can't remember what play it was, but Michelle Williams obviously was playing Gwen Verdon, and she was rehearsing for a play. She was really in the episode, she was really looking forward to it. She was looking forward to doing something, very serious, a straight play, not doing a musical. And then she did opening night, and then there was a scene where Bob Fosse comes in, and she's like, "Well done, you're gonna last for weeks or months." And she's like, "No, we're closing tonight." And
Yeah,
I thought, that's the nature of the beast then.
yeah, yeah, uh, yeah. I mean, and it's heartbreaking. It will break your heart every time. There's really no easy way about it. It will make you a little bitter. It will do the things that this business and industry does. But go in, if you can go in with a realistic expectation, then that is what is going to make what happens so magical. It's going in with this real high expectation, and putting it on a platform that it really shouldn't be on. Um, that destroys your soul and makes you want to
Mm,
quit, or and it's you have to endure, and in order to endure this industry and to keep it going and to keep yourself going through mass rejection and mass disappointment, and hoping for that one little thing that's gonna like be, you know or that next rung that you get to climb, you know what I mean? And hoping for that. Like the only thing that's going to keep you going is if you have more realistic viewpoint on TV film and Broadway, and also do things for yourself. you've got to do things for yourself. You cannot look for validation in this industry. It will not give it to you. In fact, it will do the opposite for you. It
Mm.
will unvalidate you. I mean, I'm going through a whole other aspect of this industry having turned 40. And it's like now that I'm 40, people are like
Mm.
I'm old news. And it's as a woman in her 40s, it's incredible to me how pushed aside I've become after all I've done and after all I've given and after, putting my heart and my soul into what I do creatively and also to Broadway and also to TV film. It's like you hit a certain age and people start, you know, categorizing you as like old news. And it's just like, it's really hard
Mm.
to push through the feeling of that. And as I'm shifting into a different age bracket, which is fine, into the mom bracket or whatever, like I like to consider myself like you know, I'd like to play like the horrible mom, the
Mm.
alcoholic mom, or like the rose, gypsy, oh my God, why am I blanking on the character? In you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, Gypsy Rose Lee's mom.
yeah. I
That.
was gonna say it, but my mind went completely blank as well. I was like, oh my God,
I know, right?
this is my fiance's favorite musical, and I'm just like, ugh.
Gypsy, yeah. What is her name? Like, why is it anyway? So, I'm starting to edge into that category, but people still regard me in a certain way. So it's kind of hard to like bridge this gap and like get over the hurdle of like, well, where am I in this industry at this point? So I have to do stuff for myself constantly, and that's really the hardest. That's the hardest part about it is to keep it going, just keep going. I don't turn down an audition. I don't, I'm constantly talking about, well, what's next? I'm even if I have a job, I'm still talking about what is next. What can I do for myself? Like
Mm.
I work on my one woman shows where I can tell my story and it never my story is ageless. It's my story and I have control over that story and I get to tell that story. And so I'm working on one woman shows and working on my own music and working on my own projects that I can like it's like my own stories that I have control over that never go out of like I never age out of,
Mm.
right? Or I never have to deal with not being the right type, not being tall enough, short enough, sweet enough, dark enough. Like it's just like edgy enough. Like it's
Yeah.
all these things. You never feel like you're enough. So you have to like figure out a way to feel that you are giving yourself. Again, it all comes back to like do your own thing creatively. Like that's the only thing that's going to really fulfill you while you pursue this industry and pursue whatever goals you may have. So like my goal is like very lofty. Like I I'm going to win an EGOT. Like I know I'm going to win an EGOT. How am I going to win an EGOT? I don't know, but I'm going to do it. And that is my goal. And it's a huge goal, but it's going to
Mm.
happen.
One way or the other.
However, it happens. I don't know how, but that's like my, that's my big goal that I keep in my head and I want to do it the right way. I want to
Mm.
but it's about it. I don't know how that'll happen. It's all about putting the love of what I do into what I create, either on stage, on film, in music. It's all about putting my heart and soul and creativity into all the projects that I say yes to and all of my own projects. That's what it's about. I say, winning awards, that's like my big goal, but really it I'm not taking a job to win an award. I'm taking a job because I want to like put all of the love I have for that character and for that story, and I want to figure out the best way to tell that story and the best way to convey what the audience needs to learn and feel from that character. And and that's my job, and that's what I love to do. And so through that love, and I learned that a lot with Hedwig, was it wasn't about focusing on how big the part was or how much accolades I was getting. It was like literally not about that. It was all about focusing on who am I? What's the story? What is my job here to facilitate this story in the best way possible? And how am I going to love doing this? And how am I going to love doing this 8 shows a week? How is it going to feed my soul? How am I going to find new things every time I'm on that stage? Like it was constantly evolving, ever evolving every single day. And that's basically what I go into every job with. It's like, how do I make this better every single time I do it? How do I find new things? How do I discover more about this character? And it happens every show. And so just the character gets more and more, there's more onion layers on the character.
Mm.
I tangent a lot.
Yeah, no,
Sorry.
that's absolutely fine. You go right ahead, and I'm listening because I'm learning as well. I've been all I mean I want to be a playwright. I want to write scripts, and I've written and
Mm,
published a play, a one-man play last year that I did, and I'm now doing two. I've written two more plays. One of them is being released locally in South Wales, which hopefully one of the things that my exec producer said to me was, "Where do you want to go after the three performances that you're doing in the end of March?" And I said, "Well, I want to go beyond it. I want to try and do one of the Welsh cities and then go into Bath." Which is obviously in England, and the way I'm looking at it as well is one of my friends was saying to me, "Oh, why Bath? Why Bath?" And I went, well, because Bath and Bristol are sort of like the off West End type. It's because you got the Bristol, you got Bristol Old Vic in obviously in Bristol. You got some theatre venues in Bath, and there's a lot of they're just drama mad, and maybe. I don't know, could be the wrong choice, but I'm going to give it a go that someone could go, oh, that's good. Let's put it on the West End. You never know. A lot of people say the Edinburgh Fringe Festival as well, but I'm thinking I always try to be open-minded at, yeah, if I can't go to Scotland, then obviously I got to go somewhere else and try and do it that way.
yeah.
And I learn a lot from all my guests that I have on the show anyway. So I'm kind of getting an idea of, oh yeah, it's going to be like this, it's going to be like that, but I still want to do it as a profession because I love to do it. I love to I love
Yeah.
to make these fingers bleed one day because I type too much because I've got too many ideas. Um, because we love doing what we're doing. And
Yeah. That's the thing. It's like our failures are the only thing that make us good.
mm, and if you don't have
And
failures, you what do you learn from them?
that's exactly it. Like, if you never let yourself fail,
Yeah.
if you never push yourself hard enough to where you're definitely going to fail. Like, I fail all the time. I'm constantly failing, but for some reason, I don't know why. And maybe it was the ballet. It was instilled in me that I had to fail in order to learn. And so for me, there's this fearlessness that comes when I approach something. I'm like, there's this, and I'm not aware of the fearlessness, but I'm always told that I'm fearless
Mm,
because of, I guess, of it was, it's got to be from growing up as a ballerina. It's got to be. You have to be fearless to be lifted by someone and go around in a circle and not be dropped on your head. You know what I mean?
mm,
You have to be fearless when you're partnering with someone. You have to be fearless to even go on point when you're in ballet. Like, just going up on point and like spinning around, you're gonna fall. Like until you get the muscles and you get that, you know, you have to fall, you have to fail in order to advance as a creative, in order to advance really anywhere. And so many people are averse to failing. And a lot of people are very quick to blame others for their own failures, but it's like you've got to fail on your own term. You've got to fail for yourself, like, and not blame anyone else why you failed. It's like it's not anyone else's fault that I'm like horribly dyslexic. And when I write something, because I write sometimes, and I'll be like, I have an idea for a show, and I'll just write the show, and it's terrible. Like, but it's no one else's, failure, but it's my own failure that I get to learn from, so that next time I do write something, I know, oh, that's not how it's done, and this is can be fixed this way, and I can learn for the next time, and then I just keep progressing along that way. But failure is so important.
Mm. Well, there's going to be more failures than success anyway, which we've all learned. I mean, the
Yeah.
hard way. I remember, I'll never forget this day. It was when me and a friend of mine, Lewis, who's funny enough, he's going to be in my play in March. Really good friend of mine. I came up with an idea for just a two-man comedy play. It was written within a day because I got turned down like a playwriting job. So I was like, I'm angry. I'm gonna write a play and just make myself happy. And we did it. We did it in what is called the Other Room Theatre in Cardiff. And the first night, there's like it's a very small theatre venue. It's only 50 seats that it holds. But we had on the first night we had nearly 30. So we were like, that is brilliant. And the roof nearly blew off because people were laughing. But then the following day, on our second day, only four turned up, and it was the most awkward, stressful, and somewhat torturous moment. Because when you're trying to do something funny, especially when you're doing a comedy, when you do a punchline and all you hear in the background is either a cricket or someone go ha 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 ha, ha like that. It's just so
Yeah.
deflating. And oh, I
Yeah.
never forget it. Never forget going to the pub afterwards.
I'm constantly afraid of, like, it's really hard for me to do shows, concerts myself, because my fear of selling tickets is really, really high. I'm doing a show in London on May 27th. I mean, I might as well plug my show. On May 27th, I'm doing a show at Cadogan Hall, right? And I'm like, I don't even think I'm going to be able to sell any tickets. So God, like, what if no one comes? But that's just the nature of the industry, and some people are really good at getting people to come and see their shows. Some people are not. Like, it's really, you do your best and you learn and then you move on. And if no one shows up, no one shows up. If there's five people there, you do the show for five people, and that's what's going to be. And like, I mean, I was in a band. I was in a rock band. No one cares about classic rock anymore. And I was in a rock band, and although it's coming back, but like, I was in a rock band, and we would do shows, and I would invite everyone I knew, and we would do shows for like the bartender. And I was like, well, shit, bartender's here. Let's do it. Like, this one's for you. It's your own personal show. Like, what are you gonna do? Like, you did your best. No one showed up. So be it. You have to use the opportunities, especially when there's no one there. Those are the opportunities that really make you grow. Those are the opportunities that, like, I mean, separate the people with the gumption to keep going, and separate the ones who are averse to failure. Because is that a failure? Like, is the amount of people in the audience, does that constitute a failure? No, that doesn't constitute a failure at all. In fact, but some people do take it on as such. It is a fear of mine, of course, but it doesn't mean that it's a failure, because the failure would be like, well, we're not doing the show because it's here. That would
Mm,
be like giving up.
yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, that's not using this situation to your best advantage or learning from it. I think it's great doing shows when no one's in the house. Like, I did a show in Leeds at the Leeds Playhouse, and like, the way no offense to the producers, but the way that it was marketed was very, it wasn't the show at all, and it didn't represent much, and the poster was very odd, and so no one really knew what the show was about, and so no one came to see the show for the first week or two, and it was like, ooh, like, yeah, it's only 200 seats, like no one is here, like what is going on? But I did my show, and it didn't matter if there were 20 people in the audience or if the show was sold out. I gave the same exact, I gave the same amount of energy per performance.
Mm,
It was like listening to the audience, and you're when it's 20 people, it's so intimate. You really feel how they're feeling about the piece. That teaches you a lot. Um, and so I never change what I do depending on who's or how many people or how few people are in the
mm,
house. It doesn't deter me from doing it. It scares me because, I'm like, oh God, am I gonna sell any tickets? Like, it scares me, but it doesn't deter me. I keep
mm.
doing it. I think it's a childhood trauma thing. For me, because when I had a birthday party, and like I tell the story all the time, but it's like I had a birthday party, and I invited my whole class, and I wrote and I like did all of the invites myself, and I was like, it was like I was 8 years old, and I was dyslexic, and I didn't really know how to spell things correctly. But my mom let me do it, and I passed all the invites out, and no one helped me. It was like all my own thing, and no one showed up. Not one
Oh,
person showed up to my birthday party, and it was horrible. It felt horrible. You feel like you're not loved, and that continues on with me my whole adult life. It's like
mm,
if no one shows up, yeah, I don't feel like people like me at all. Like there's a deep childhood thing going on. So don't make me feel that and come to my show again. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
yeah.
Uh,
Come to a show now.
yeah, exactly. So yeah, so there's always that like childhood fear. It freaks me out. But like, but each time I do it, if people show up, they do. If they don't, they don't. But I get a chance to like work on my own creative outlet
Mm,
and do my own shows and sing my own music and tell my own story, and that's cool. And if 5 people were there to listen to it, that's amazing. That's
mm,
5 people.
yeah. And you don't know
That's
who that
amazing.
yeah, and you don't know who that one in five people are. Like, I could turn around and go, you got something, and things could change. It's like that scene in La La Land where Emma Stone did a one woman show nearly towards the end of the film, and it was like only 7 or 8 people only turned up, and then she gets an email afterwards to say, "Oh, I'm an agent. Why don't you go and do this audition for?" And then it just went off that way because you never know. You never know who's in that audience. You never know who that one person is.
Yeah.
Now, one of the musicals that you've done, whether it be an ensemble or lead or whatever, is Tarzan. Now, I got to ask you this one question because I am a huge, huge Phil Collins fan. Did you meet Phil Collins?
Oh yeah.
Oh, tell
Oh
me,
yeah,
tell me
I met
everything.
Phil Collins. Are you sure? Okay. Well, he came to rehearsal every day. He was always there because I was in the original company. And we have the same birthday, FYI. And so I was like, Phil, we have the same birthday. He was always so sweet to me. He asked me on a date, but I didn't go because I don't date people I work with. And so, like he was always there every day, and he was such a nice guy, a really wonderful person. And I could have gone on a date with him, but I didn't because I'm not, I have to be very, very interested in the person if I'm gonna
Yeah.
go on the date. You know what I mean? Um, but like Phil remembers me from then, and anytime I see him, he's just wonderful. I think he's one of the cool, like he's so talented. His music writing is so cool and original because he's a drummer. If you listen to his music, the way he writes music is extremely rhythmic.
Mm,
Like even the vocals, even the lyrics that he chooses are so rooted in rhythm,
mm,
and because he's just like this phenomenal drummer. And it's interesting because he took over Genesis for Peter Gabriel, who I'm
mm.
also a huge fan of, and I've met as well. Um, but Phil like took, I mean, if you listen to Phil and Peter Gabriel, they sound very
Yeah, yeah.
similar. So
I thought Phil
yeah,
Collins wrote Salisbury Hill. I thought he was the one who sung that. I think Peter Greenwood sang that. He did do that, didn't he? Correct me. Yeah, because
yeah,
I was like, oh my God, Phil Collins sung this. And everyone was like, no, that's Peter Gabriel. I thought, oh, they sound so similar.
yeah. I think that because Phil was, learned from Peter. And when
Mm,
Peter left Genesis, he took over and he did these
yeah.
incredible songs. I find that to be so fascinating. It's like, what is it? Uh, it's not copying, it's imitation is the sincerest form of flattery.
Mm,
And it was like he took that imitation of Peter Gabriel's voice because it's very similar. It's almost exact. You nearly can't tell them apart,
mm,
especially in the early days, right?
yeah.
He took that and he ran with it, and he nailed Genesis. He made Genesis into something much more than probably it would have been had it been a different front person.
Mm,
Um, and then of course Peter Gabriel went off and did his own thing, and Peter Gabriel is like so original.
mm,
One of the very first, he would go on stage in a fox costume and a dress. Like he was part of that gender bending kind of um, doing interesting things on stage that nobody else was doing. And it was like him and David Bowie and like these really cool experimental people. Whereas Phil was, like instantly pop. Like he made pop music. Like he defined it and defined this kind of genre of like very rhythm heavy pop, which is like super cool. So it's all these different versions of rock and roll that
mm.
I love. Yeah. And influenced me a lot. And Phil Collins is awesome.
Yeah.
And I hope he's doing well because I haven't seen him in a long time. I know he had a health scare, so I wonder how he's doing.
I know him and Genesis are not doing any more. I know they've stopped. But the one song, I mean, a lot of people keep saying in the air tonight because it's very popular, and I'm like, no, go listen to the album that features "Dancing to the Light," "Wear My Hat," um, listen to those songs because that is just him, or at his all-time peak where he's like, yeah, I'm gonna go all out, especially "Wear My Hat." I just love it. It's such a it's one of those songs where I could just get up and be like, yeah, I'm gonna do that. Not strip
It's
off, but
awesome.
yeah, I'm gonna dance to it.
Yeah. I love like because if like one of the best examples of his songwriting is obviously In the Air Tonight
Mm,
because he doesn't come in with the big beat until like really far into the song.
yeah.
But it's if you listen to it, the rhythm is in the vocals. Like the rhythm
Mm,
is already being done in the vocals. And, you know, he just makes you wait for it. Like makes you wait for that big drum hook. Like
mm.
who does a drum hook? He knows how to write a hook on a drum. Like who does that? Like that did it did it did it did it da da
Yeah.
da like it's just like so unbelievable. And he did for Tarzan too. I mean, he was the perfect person to write Tarzan the musical. Unfortunately, it didn't do very well on Broadway, but like the music in Tarzan the musical, that song I Want to Know is like
Mm.
extra I mean, the whole thing is rhythm heavy, and it's just like perfect for Tarzan the musical. I hear it's like really good in Germany. Like they did, like it's still running in Germany. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like Broadway was the out of town tryout for Germany. Like they did all the
yeah,
fixes for what was the issues on Broadway in Germany, and it's still running there. And of course it is because the music is brilliant. The music is
yeah.
absolutely brilliant. It's a timeless story. It's unfortunate that they didn't do an out of town tryout for Tarzan. I think they would have learned a lot.
Mm. It's one of those things where I remember there was like a meme picture of I don't know what it was, but it was like a cut of Phil Collins's head on an animation, and someone said like it said Disney executive, right? Phil, all we want is just a simple Disney musical. We don't want anything else. And then it just cuts to Phil Collins going in hardcore. Got it. And I'm like, 'cause he knows. That's
Yeah,
the it's one of my all-time
he
favorite
does. Yeah,
films, though, especially because of Phil Collins as well. I love it.
yeah, that
Right.
music.
Are you looking for the perfect bracelet for a loved one? Would your man be interested in a personalized keyring from his children? Are you looking for the best priced jewelry, whether it be a necklace, ring, earrings, bangle, or even more? Look no further than Crafted Arts. Crafted Arts is a local business based in Barry within the Vale of Glamorgan, and they have a range of all the perfect items you need. If it's for the perfect gift for an anniversary, or maybe it's for someone's birthday, maybe something for Christmas, or you wanted to give someone that perfect gift that will last a long time, Crafted Arts is the business for you. If you want to know more or see what they have in stock, then you can visit them locally at 29 High Street, Barry, Vale of Glamorgan, CF627EB, or you can go onto their website at www.craftedarts.co.uk. You could even email them at info@craftedarts.co.uk, or maybe just give them a call at 07789 94248. Trust me, it's worth it for the perfect gift. The best thing about Creative Space is that we don't just want to encourage people in being creative in TV, film, or even theatre. We also want you to be creative in a variety of other things as well. So do you want to have experience in making jewelry? Do you want to pick up a hobby but do not know what to take or where to start? Then look no further than the Vale Jewelry Workshops. Vale Jewelry Workshops provides the best experience in teaching you how to make the best sterling silver jewelry. They will help you make a range of silverware including rings, bracelets, and many more pieces. You will learn the basic silversmith skills such as soldering, texturing, shaping, and lots more. Not only do the workshops provide the experience for adults, it also provides the best experience and fun for children as well. So if you want to learn on how to make sterling silver jewelry, and if you're very interested, go onto their website at www.valegewelryworkshops.co.uk or get in touch with them via email at info@valegewelryworkshops.co.uk or even phone them at 07789 794248. Getting down to Kinky Boots. Now, I have I have read now the thing is about because it was supposed to be set in Northampton, right? Now
Yeah.
don't it's okay. I mean, I'm Welsh, right? And even sometimes we try it's very hard when you try to do. I mean, it's like a lot of people would say it's very difficult to put on a Welsh accent. And funny enough, the previous episode I did, we talked about mainly Robert Downey Jr. doing a Welsh accent in Doolittle, and then there was like a lot of the American critics were like, how can he do a Welsh accent? It's absolutely disgusting. He's insulting the Welsh people." And then there's me going, "It's like get in there." It's like love it. um, you've it's like Broadway. I mean, you got royalty here. There's like Cyndi Lauper. There's like Harvey Firestein. I mean, I mean, Billy Porter playing Lola. I mean, what was the experience like for you doing Kinky Boots, especially how you were how you did you audition? Was you approached? And how did you settle into doing the musical? And this is where
I auditioned. I know, right? Auditioned. I put myself on tape because I couldn't make it in person. I was up at ART doing a show called Prometheus Bound up there. So I couldn't get in person, but Jerry Mitchell had seen me do audition for him a ton, and he always wanted to work with me in some capacity. And I done the Legally Blonde, the Search for the Next Elwood's reality television show for him. And and so I was always on his radar. He was always calling me in. So he called me in for this and he was like, "You are the person. This is you. You're gonna get this." I was like, "Okay." So for my initial audition, I actually went in for him and for the music director, and he was super stoked and was like, "Yeah, you're getting a call back." I was like, so they gave me the material, and I actually worked with a dialect coach to try and nail the like Northampton accent. Um, and and I'm okay with accents. I'm actually not that bad, but apparently I'm terrible at them. But in the States, I'm not bad.
It's a weird.
Anyway,
It is a weird accent because Northampton is sort of, you got in England, you got London area, then you got Northampton, which is slap bang in the middle. Then you got the Midlands, and then you got Yorkshire, and it's like right in the
right.
middle. So, I
Yeah.
mean, you can't even go anywhere. Sometimes you may do a northern, you may do a southern, you may do an eastern, western. It doesn't matter. It's just right in the middle. It's like it just happened to be there.
Right. Right. Yeah. So, I put myself on tape. I had a guitarist because it's Cyndi Lauper, right? I'm not gonna like have a pianist do this song with me. I'm gonna have a guitarist do it. And so I had my boyfriend at the time play guitar for my audition and or for my tape, my self tape. I sent it in, got the job. Like once Cindy saw it, I got the job instantly. I think she could sense that I was a rock and roller, and not like pingy musical theater, because she doesn't like that. She doesn't like that
No.
musical, like this weird musical theater homogenized sound that's happening now. It's becoming like the sound on Broadway. I'm like, I don't. It's not. We don't all have to sound like that. Like, where's the voices? Where are original sounds? Like,
Mm.
let's dive into that a little bit more. I don't need to hear a copy of Idina or Kristen or Sutton Foster more. Like, we're good. We've heard it. Let's move on. So I think Cindy could like sense that I was in rock and roll and I had this like rock voice, and of course Harvey, I love like I did the scenes well. Harvey loved that, and so I got the job pretty much instantly after they watched my tape. I also had the haircut and the
Mm.
hair, like from the movie. Like literally had the same haircut as the girl from the movie, which is funny. And it was not planned that way at all. And so I did the workshops. I did lots of readings and workshops. It was a few of us that were from the first workshop and just kept advancing on. Me, Anna Lee, and then there were a few other ensemble members who continued on doing the workshops. Um, and like the role of Nicola actually was really, really fleshed out. In fact, the role was really well written and was much better written than even Charlie or Lauren were. I loved the character because she, you know, was written as a woman who knew what she wanted, was always very clear about that. And she thought that her fiance was on the same path as her
Mm.
because that's what he had always said and done. And he was always like going with her. Like they went to London, they got engaged. Like she was always very forthcoming with what she wanted and expected of Charlie. And when he suddenly changes his mind and decides to do something that he had never been interested in before, which is the shoes, right?
Mm.
It's like a total out of the blue. It's like the trust you had for someone is like blown out of the water. It's like gone. Oh, I thought we were on the same page. I thought we wanted the same thing. That's why we did all this together. And it's like now suddenly you're into this other thing. Like what is going on? And so from my perspective as a woman, this character was written and fleshed out beautifully, where, she had to make a choice and be like, all right, well, I've always told you what I wanted, and now you don't want that anymore. So I guess this is the end. Um, And that's amazing. That's amazing. I mean, if you really think about that, like for a woman to be like, you want all good. I love you still, but I'm going on with my dream. And you can go on with
Mm.
your dream. It's not the same thing anymore. We have changed and gone in different directions. So long, Charlie. Like she had a song. She had a song. It's on YouTube. You can find it.
Mm.
Um, it's a song. It's called So Long, Charlie. And I got to do it for like a week or two when we did our out of town trial. Anyway, like so my character was amazing, and then they were like, well, people don't really like Charlie
You know what?
because
It's weird for you to say that because when we're rehearsing, it's the complete opposite. We're feeling for Charlie, but we're not feeling for Nicola. I don't know why. It's like most of the characters, most of the cast members were like, I hate Nicola now. It's like I really hate her. But then it's like,
yeah,
yeah, because, and I'm like, yeah, because we're not following her. We're following Charlie. We're seeing what he's been put through. But that's what
yeah,
makes it really good because you feel it. But it's
you
weird.
have
It's
to.
yeah, it's like a weird character development or character writing where it's like Breaking Bad in some ways, where you feel sorry for Walter White despite the fact he's doing the most heinous crimes ever. Yet Skylar, his wife, is like, "No, you can't do this. You can't do this," and everyone was like, "Shut up, Skylar." It's like,
Right,
what?
yeah. Well, the thing is like that's how it started. I had all these amazing scenes. The scenes were really long, well fleshed out. I had a song, all these this amazing stuff. And they were like, okay, so there's the problem is that the audience doesn't like Charlie and they don't want Charlie to be with Lauren. They're all siding with me. Like they're all from my perspective. So little by little, he kept coming to me. He's like, we have to cut these scenes down. I was like, oh, okay. So they kept cutting everything down and cutting all stuff down and expanding on Charlie and Lauren, which they needed to do. If you're gonna have a show where you want the audience to side with Charlie and want Charlie and Lauren to be together, then you have to expand their characters more. And so my character for their expansion kept getting cut down until finally they were like, we're gonna cut a verse out of your song. And I was like, the song isn't even like fully fleshed out. Like it's not even a
Mm,
full song. And I was like, look, the song is saying the exact same thing I'm saying in the scene. I was like, so either I sing the song or we do this scene. But if you really need, this to be go forward and not slow down, and I was like, you should cut the song,
mm. How did you
And
feel
so they
about
ended
that?
up cutting the song, and that's how that happened.
Yeah.
It was really, really hard because at the time I was like, I was like, I'm starring in a show and I've got this amazing role and like this and that. I've got a song. Like this is amazing. And then as it just got cut down in our out of town tryout, I was like, I had to sit there and let my own ego go and sit there and go, what's right for the show? This is not
Mm,
the Nicholas show. This is a show about Charlie. And it sucks, but I get it.
yeah.
And so it was really tough, but I knew it had nothing to do with my talent, and I had to just allow for them to be able to make the show the best it possibly could be. And that kind of left me with the role that was tiny and should have just been like an ensemble person playing the feature of Nicola.
Mm,
Uh, but I was still, I stayed with the show because I felt like the show was super special. And I loved working with Cindy and Harvey and Jerry. So I stuck around and I saw it through. I saw it
mm.
Broadway because I had been on every, reading and workshop and I didn't miss one thing. And it was the out of town tryout in Chicago where everything got cut back for my character. And it was really, really tough. It was a tough lesson to learn too. It's that lesson of what is my functionality in this storyline? How do I best represent and how do I do it the best to my ability? And that's sometimes
Mm.
that's the case. And so it helped me when I went into Hedwig, which, Yitzhak written on the page is literally nothing. I mean, there's no dialogue, there's nothing. You've got a little bit of a monologue here. You got a little bit of a thing at the opening where you introduce, you say a thing, you're singing back up. You might have the song, the long riff, you might not, because it does depend on the production. That originally wasn't Yitzhak's song. And then you have the sing at the end, right? You don't say anything. And for me, the doing that show was the best thing I learned was how do I properly, service this production. I loved the show so much. I had to be in it. Didn't matter to what capacity. I didn't need to be the star. Like I just wanted to be in Hedwig so bad because I loved the music and I loved the show and I loved John and Steve. And so by putting aside my own ego of like, I need to sing more and I need to do a monologue and I need this and I need that because I'll never be noticed. It wasn't about that. It was like about, well, how do I service Neil Patrick Harris as Hedwig? And how do I make the show run smoothly? And how do I do my job? And that my job was literally just to be there for them. And so every time they were like, where am I going to get this mic, or where am I going to get this mic stand? I'd be like, I'll do it because I'm sitting here and I can do it and I can just service this and I can just do. And what happened was it built this character into something that was more than it had ever been. And it created more of a story for that character in silence. And that was what was so powerful was by just sitting there and having to listen to Hedwig. You had to listen. You couldn't check out for 90 minutes or 100 minutes. You had to be there and be aware the whole time because anything that would go wrong, it was on me to fix. And the show going and continuing, I was the one who had to fix it. So I couldn't check out. I couldn't just be in La La Land until my next line. I had to be present the whole time because also I never knew when Neil was going to turn around and need water. If he needed water, I was the one who was giving it to him. If he needed a pastille, I was the one giving it to him. If the mic broke, I was the one giving it to him. If the cord broke, I was the one fixing it. If the stand broke, I got new stands. Like all of these things were up to me to do. And by being functional for Hedwig, it created more of a storyline for my character. And it created this connection to what was going on stage so deeply that even when I was sitting in the dark for most of the show, not lit, just sitting in the dark, people felt my presence there because I was just waiting for something to happen that bad and being like, what's going to happen today? Something always happened. It was never ran smoothly. There was always something that happened during the show. And it was always like, I was always on. And it was that show taught me how to listen on stage and how to constantly be present and never just wait for my line or wait for my song or be like, oh, I don't have a lot of lines. Doesn't matter. I don't matter in this show. It's like, no, anyone can make the smallest role infinitely important just by being so present on that stage. And that goes for ensemble too. Like there's some ensemble members that I see who are just present. They are so present. And it's not about selling. It's not about taking the spotlight. It's about being present and listening so intently that they then, there's this presence there. It catches my eye. There's something about that person. And it has nothing to do with how big their role is. It has nothing to do with anything. And I see that person, I'm like, oh, they're going somewhere. They're going somewhere. They're going to pop. They're going to do a feature. It's going to be big because they're present. They're there. And you see the people who aren't present and it's just kind of like, they don't care. It does show. It doesn't matter where you
Mm,
are on the stage, how much you are on the stage. It doesn't matter the size of the role. It doesn't matter the size of the audience. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Being present and listening intently and reacting to what you're listening to. That's the key.
mm. So it got you a Tony Award.
Yeah.
Hard work paid off.
Yeah, I mean, it was just intent listening and just being
Yeah.
there. That's all it was. It was just being present and intently listening,
Mm,
and that's what got me a Tony Award. I mean, I have my vocals are something that people had not heard on Broadway, and that also stuck me out from a crowd. But if you really look at the character written on the page, you would never think that this character was Tony worthy. So that's a lesson that I want everyone to pay attention to. It
mm.
is not the size of the role. It is not the size of the role. It doesn't matter how many songs you have or how much dialogue you have. Uh, and that's a
Oh,
lesson from my Great Dane.
yeah. Oh,
My great for well, no one can see this, but if anyone knows my Great Dane, she just got on my lap. She's huge. She's 110 pounds.
oh, what's her name?
She's demanding my attention. Her name is Deanie. Ah,
Jeannie. Oh, she is gorgeous.
thank you. And this is Dagny, the littler one.
Oh my. Wanted mum's attention, basically.
Yeah. So yeah.
No, it's all good. But when when you performed with Neil Patrick Harris, though, did you learn anything from him? And what was he like, not just as a performer, but as a person to be around?
Uh, well, Neil's awesome. I mean, when you know Neil, Neil's really interesting. He's been famous for so long
Mm,
that he does have, a bit of. He has a guard up, which is why wouldn't you have a guard up? I mean, he's been famous since he was a kid, so so he's a guard up. But once the guard comes down and once he gets to know you, he's wonderfully fabulous.
mm,
He's funny and he's a consummate like he's the con, consummate consummate showman,
mm,
like understands comedy, understands stage presence. I mean, I always, each and every single one of the Hedwigs that did the show were their own kind of specialty, like their own thing. And Neil was the showgirl. Neil was like so magnetic and so good at finding things and bringing in his own sense of comedy with ad-libbing and things like that. He was brilliant, and he would bring me on the journey with him sometimes, and that was always really really fun. He was really he was super fearless on that stage, and and I don't think he sometimes gets enough credit
mm.
for what he does. I mean, his sense of comic timing is just so excellent, and that's really hard. I mean, that's one of the hardest things to do is comedy, because comedy is all about timing, and comedy is also about truth, and he is so excellent at all of that. We had such a blast, and there was, there was never any negativity that was going on. It was hard. It was a hard show, but there was never any negativity going on. Like he was so really very focused on delivering the best show possible. And what was interesting is like we had this rapport for character, and the minute I got to the theater, that rapport started, and it was where Hedwig would just like browbeat, Yitzhak. And so I would send Hedwig like love notes and gifts and things like that. Every show I gave him a card or something. Sometimes he would send them back, or he would send a card with just something really shitty written on it, or it was just like this like fun rapport that we had. And he went along with my, you know, with how I would set up my own character. Like I started writing the cards, and then he started to respond and like do things back with me, which was really fun. Just to kind of give characters some, you know, a little bit of back story right before we went on stage, right? Backstory for the day, like what was happening in that day, like to give us something new to go on when we would step on that stage. And that's kind of that's what I did. And for Neil, like, yeah, I mean, I learned so much from watching him play Hedwig and watching him grow from the start to where he finished. And it was marvelous to see how incredibly good he was at ad-libbing and taking a situation that was happening that is, outside of his control and making it a bit.
How did you feel when I did watch the when you accepted your Tony Awards, but at the ceremony, I mean, for you, don't worry, it, when that happens for me, that's exactly how I'm gonna be like. I'm like, I did it, but I'm like, I did it. But for you, when you were sat in the crowd, there's many legends of the theater, legends of Broadway, and then all of a sudden your name is called out. You are the winner of this Tony Awards, and it's placed in your hands. That must be. I think everything must have just gone, just blacked out. And you just thought, what have I just done? Why me?
Yeah. Well, again, it was a real shock. People are like, you're lying. It wasn't a shock. I was like, no, you don't understand. I sat in the dark. Other people were on stage. They had light on them. I had no light on me. Like, like I seriously didn't think that it was possible for me to win, because also the Tony season, it the precursor for who wins the Tony happens in all of the other awards that are given out before the Tony Awards. So
Mm,
basically, like, there's all of the other awards that are given out, and it's almost like the precursor to who is going to win the Tony.
mm.
And like I wasn't even nominated for some of them. So for me, I was like, it was a shock I was nominated for a Tony Award. And then I remember trying to write a speech, and it was impossible. It was impossible to write a speech because I was like, I don't even know, like, what am I what do you even say? What am I going to say, something important, or like am I going to talk off the cuff? Like, what do you even say? And I was like, and I'm not even going to win. And why would I even write a speech if I'm not going to win? Like, why would I do that to myself and be
Mm.
sad? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
And like I didn't. All I did was write down a couple of names. Like when I was sitting in my seat, I was like, well, who should I not forget, on like a piece of paper. And then I had printed out this like thing that I had said on Facebook, just in case.
Mm.
Um, that was kind of a thank you to everyone for the nomination. And like honestly, like it was such a shock. Um, and I wasn't even in my body for that. Um, like I watch it and I don't remember being up there, and I don't even I don't I didn't even remember that it was like Blair Waldorf from Gossip Girl. Like I was a massive fan of that. Like at that time, I was like, oh my god, that's Leighton Meester. Like, oh my god, like I didn't even clock that she was on that stage. I didn't even, it wasn't until after, and I watched it, and I watched my speech back, which was awful to do. But like when I watched my speech back, I'm like, oh my god, I'm such a dummy. Like I watched my speech back, I'm like, holy shit, that's Leighton Meester. What am I thinking? Like I could have like said hi, and I didn't. I didn't say hi. I could have hugged her. Like I was like super into Gossip Girl. Like what's wrong with me? I like completely blacked out. It was just like this moment of you're in such a heightened emotional state that you're not there, you're not present. So it's the same thing that happens with severe trauma. It's like you're not there, you're not present. It's like
Mm,
your body is protecting you from something. And so, unfortunately the same works in like super heightened, like good situations as well.
mm,
Like that. But, you know, it was I mean, it was insane. And I really couldn't believe I won. And, everything I said was very, very heartfelt. And even though it was like very chaotic, it was super chaotic energy. I'll give you that. But like right after I did, and you have to understand the Tony Day is like the craziest day on the planet because at 9 a.m. you're at the theater getting dressed for to go to the Tonys to perform your number that you're doing on stage at like 11 a.m. And they record it just in case there's problems, right? This is the film version.
mm.
And then you go back and you get out of costume and you eat breakfast and you wait for your matinee to happen. And then you do your matinee on the Tony during when the Tonys are on the same day at 3 o'clock. You do your matinee, and so you get back into character. You do your matinee, and then after the matinee, you get dressed for the red carpet, and then you do the red carpet, and then you go and you sit in your seat, and you wait for whatever. You either sit in your seat and you're waiting for your category to be called, or you are going backstage and getting ready for your performance. So I sat and I waited for my category, and my category happened, and like it was like I had been up since 7 a.m. I was already exhausted. I'd already done a show. I'd already been a man twice that day and a woman 3 times already. And then after I won, I had to go rush back upstairs and turn back into a man to go down and do our live performance. And so after I turned into a man and I came back downstairs, and Bradley Cooper's there, and like Hugh Jackman was right there. And Hugh Jackman looked at me and he was like, that was the best Tony speech I've ever heard. I remember being like, it was? I don't even know what I said. Like, what did I say? I was like, I don't even know. And then they announced Hedwig and the Angry Inch, and they said Tony winner Lena Hall. Like, and I stepped on that stage and realized that no one recognized me because I was a man and I had accepted my as a woman. And then after we did after we did the performance, then I had to rush back and change again back into a woman, and then do press and do the press line. I missed Neil winning. I missed I missed everybody winning for Hedwig because I was doing the press line, because you have to do press right after you win. And so like my skin's on fire from taking makeup on and off. Like it's just insane. I've changed gender now 6 times or something like that. 7 times. See, start as a woman, then you're a man, go back to a woman, then you're a man, back to a woman, then you're a man, back to a woman. Change gender 7 times. And then you go on to the parties. And like I had this award in my hand, and I was just holding, like I held onto it like the death grip. Like I didn't put it down. Like I had it in my hand the whole night. By 4 a.m., I was like, oh my God, okay, I can put it down now. I'm home. Ow. Like amazing. I can't believe I won this. And then you have to give the award back, because then they inscribe them, and then they send them to you inscribed and all that kind of stuff. Because they're not inscribed at the
No.
telecast. No, or else everybody would know who wins. But yeah, so like it was just a wild full day. And that nothing can compare to that kind of award day. All the other awards is very different. You don't have to, like Oscars, you're just like waiting all day, you're getting ready, and then you go to the Oscars and like you do press and then you go to, but you're not like going back and forth in character and you're not doing a show that day. Like same thing for the Grammys. It's like you go and if you're performing for the Grammys, well then you change and you perform and then you change back and you go back in your seat. But like again, there's not you're not performing uh a matinee on the same day. I still think it's crazy they do it on a matinee day. It's insane to me. And yeah, so it's like a really, really amazing experience. It doesn't really exist anywhere else. I'm not quite sure how the Olivier's are, and how that whole thing goes. But I want to win an Olivier one day. Like, hell yeah. Of course that's on my bucket list.
Last question for you now, Lena Hall, and I really enjoyed. I mean, there's so many questions to get through, but I know because of timing and everything. But last question for you. Now, I always ask my guests this all the time. Now, so far, how do you look back on your career?
Um, I look back and, it does depend on the day. It does depend on the day. Sometimes I look back and I think, like, wow, you know, I've done a lot and I have so much and there's so much abundance. And there's so much that I wanted to do, but at the same time, it's like I've accomplished so much. I know so many people. I've met amazing amounts of people. I went to the Met Gala. Like, who goes to that? Um, and then there are days where I'm feeling particularly bad about myself. And I look back and I go, I should have done this. And I missed that opportunity. And I'm pissed at my, old representation for dropping the ball. And I could be so much further than I am right now. So it really does depend on the day. It depends on how I'm feeling about myself because not every day is a good day. And that's okay. You know, it's okay. It's really okay. Um, I think that it's okay to go back and forth, and it's okay to have one day where you're feeling a little resentment, and then the next day, like, actually, this is amazing. Like, my life is amazing. I'm amazing. Like, this is awesome. You know, because every day is different. And if you try to suppress bad feelings and suppress like the bad days and not just acknowledge them and be like, I'm feeling like shit today, that'll come out later in other ways. And it can be physical health, mental health, like all that kind of stuff. What's always good is to just acknowledge how you feel about yourself in that moment and acknowledge that nothing is permanent. So even when I'm feeling at my best, I know that that is not permanent, but that doesn't lessen it. It makes me appreciate it. I'm having a good day. I feel beautiful today. Like I feel like I can get tons done today. And then there's days where I'm like, I feel like shit. I feel like I've ruined my career. I feel like I'm going nowhere. I feel like I'm backsliding. I feel like, you know, it's okay. It's a fear. It's fear when that happens. It's definitely fear. And and everybody needs to know that it is okay to feel these feelings. And what's best is to acknowledge them and say, hey, I'm feeling fear. Because that's usually where it stems from, right? Is fear. Fear of not being good enough, fear of never working again. You know, this fear that happens. Fear of not being liked. Yeah, like I have that. Who doesn't? But again, like all the negative, anything negative that we feel is usually stemming from fear. And if you can acknowledge that fear and say it's okay to feel that way, usually you get through it much faster and much better than if you're like trying to suppress it and be like, no, everything's fine. I'm like amazing. I'm doing really well. Like, I'm just going to keep creating. It's like, no, like creativity comes in waves. It's okay if you're having a day where it's like you can't even think because you're holding anger and fear. Like, it's really okay. No need to suppress. But again, you have to acknowledge and call it out, call it what it is, and work through it, talk through it with yourself. Well, why am I feeling this way, right? And then the next day, you might have a much better day where you're like, yeah, right, I'm amazing at writing. I'm going to go ahead and write a little something today and get it done. And you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
there's this weird sense, and I think it has to do with kind of society, the way that there's like this weird sense of productivity and this sense of like always making money and always buying things, and like it's consuming and productivity and constant creation, and it's like social media and YouTube have really like, I mean, it's really hard like to constantly be creative and constantly be putting out creativity, because creativity comes in waves, and you cannot be creative in a positive, in a good way for yourself if you are not full, if your love bucket inside of you isn't full, if you haven't taken care of your needs, if you haven't taken care of yourself, and especially if you're feeling pressure that you have to create all the time. Like, again, that it's that fear of maybe being irrelevant, or the fear of never making it. Like, if I don't keep creating, I'll never make it. We have to really look at that and say to ourselves, it's okay. It's okay if you have a day where all you can do is pay bills, and because you're feeling a lot of fear about something or other. It's really okay. And a lot of people talk about self-care, and self-care is the way it's depicted, especially on social media, is like a spa day or getting my nails done or this and that. And that is not self-care, honey. that's I'm not, it's not indulgent. That's like pampering yourself, right?
Mm.
There's a difference between real self-care and pampering yourself. Real self-care is kind of can suck. It's doing laundry, it's cleaning house, it's paying bills, it's going to the doctor, checking your eyes, checking things, making sure that you've got all of your things set and good and taken care of. That is self-care. The rest is gifts for yourself, pampering. Oh, I'm going to take the day off of work to have a birthday party. Yeah, that's not self-care, honey. That is a gift for yourself. Self-care would be like, I can't afford to take the day off for my birthday because I need to make money to pay my bills right now because I'm suffering financially maybe a little bit. So I'm going to be responsible and be self-care and go to work on my birthday. You know, that's self-care. It's taking care of yourself in a way that is hard to do. That's not fun. Self-care is not getting a manicure, pedicure, because if you're not making the money in order to afford that, that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. You know, a lot of times real self-care stuff is free.
Are you looking for the perfect bracelet for a loved one? Would your man be interested in a personalised keyring from his children? Are you looking for the best priced jewellery, whether it be a necklace, ring, earrings, bangle or even more? Look no further than Crafted Arts. Crafted Arts is a local business based in Barry within the Vale of Glamorgan, and they have a range of all the perfect items you need. If it's for the perfect gift for an anniversary, or maybe it's for someone's birthday, maybe something for Christmas, or you wanted to give someone that perfect gift that will last a long time, Crafted Arts it's the business for you. If you want to know more or see what they have in stock, then you can visit them locally at 29 High Street, Barry, Vale of Glamorgan, CF627EB. Or you can go onto their website at www.craftedarts.co.uk. You could even email them at info@craftedarts.co.uk, or maybe just give them a call at 07789 94248. Trust me, it's worth it for the perfect gift. The best thing about Creative Space is that we don't just want to encourage people in being creative in TV, film, or even theatre. We also want you to be creative in a variety of other things as well. So do you want to have experience in making jewelry? Do you want to pick up a hobby but do not know what to take or where to start? Then look no further than the Vale Jewelry Workshops. Vale Jewelry Workshops provides the best experience in teaching you how to make the best sterling silver jewelry. They will help you make a range of silverware including rings, bracelets, and many more pieces. You will learn the basic silversmith skills such as soldering, texturing, shaping, and lots more. Not only do the workshops provide the experience for adults, it also provides the best experience and fun for children as well. So if you want to learn on how to make sterling silver jewelry, and if you're very interested, go onto their website at www.valejewelryworkshops.co.uk or get in touch with them via email at info@valejewelryworkshops.co.uk or even phone them at 07789 794248.